When I was searching really about for something that I really wanted to concentrate on for this body of work that I've created, I needed to have something that had a connection for me. And I looked at various different artists. I looked at Picasso, I looked at all of those, and all of those, they created lots of 3D work. And then I came upon Bacon one day. I thought his work is so, it's so 3D in so many ways that I thought maybe I'll work on Bacon's portrait. Lots of people find his work quite grotesque or horrifying or whatever, but the more I got into it, the more I could actually understand him. And as I was doing all of these portraits, you know, I kind of got into the head of Bacon as he would have been painting them, and they had another different meaning for me. How I got into working on the concept that I had for the MA, which was really looking at accessibility and the tactile quality to work, which I wanted people to experience the work and be able to handle the work. How I came about that was at my degree show, I had a series of figurative pieces, various figurative pieces. At the show, I was more interested in watching people walking around and looking at them. And I could see people sneaking, kind of rubbing the side of it or the head of it and that. And then I invited them to, you know, to handle them and touch them. So that was the aspect really that caught my attention, and I thought I really would like to develop that aspect further, because, you know, in museums and galleries and anywhere where there's ceramics, you know, it's do not touch and keep away and all of that, and you just have to stand back and just be a silent observer. And when I began to think about it, and the more I began to think about it, I began to think, well, if you're visually impaired and you're in a museum or a gallery, how can you understand anything if you're just listening to a description of it, but you can't actually touch it? And so then I went down that route, and then I started looking at that, and that led me on to doing the pieces with the I started off making the vessels with the little heads on it, but I realized these were much too small, that you could probably get an idea of what they were like. I liked the vessels, and overall, to rub your hand over them, you know, there's lots of things going on. But I decided I needed to move into more singular heads and do the larger ones, and that's how I ended up doing the large heads. And they are purely for the tactile experience of touching them and just getting a sense. There's kind of rougher areas and very smooth areas, so they're actually very pleasant to touch. And having worked then with the School for the Blind and doing the projects with them, I got a lot of good feedback from the students there, and they really liked them. I brought these into Rosmini School to get a reaction from the students that were there to see what did they think of them. And one of the guys, Brendan, he thought, his reaction first was that these are mad, and he said they're really strange, and you know, what was this long nose, and why did he only have one eye, and where was the side of his head, and where were his ears and everything. And then I explained to him how Bacon went about painting his portraits and what they were like with the voids and things like that. And then he said, leave it with me and come back to me in a few minutes. So I came back, and he said, you know, if not on this particular one, but there was another one that had a big void in the side, he said, if I put my head in there and I talk, the sound comes back to me. And he began to see lots of other things in it. The heads all begin with a kind of a generic head shape, and then when I have it, depending on the portrait I'm going to work on, I kind of hammer it into shape and then add on lots of clay onto it, and then when I have more or less the shape that I'm looking for, then I start modelling it back. So this is the starting point, which is a press mould that I have here. I've worked on various different projects, youth projects with school children, and I say at Art in Action this year when I was there, and I really didn't know what to do when I went, because I didn't have an awful lot of work. I was kind of asked at the last minute. So what I did was I made lots of little balls of clay, and when people came and asked about say the vessels with all the heads on them, or some of the figurative pieces that I had, I said, well, I explained what they were all about, and then I gave them a piece of clay so that they could engage with the material and kind of get an understanding of what these things were made from. And I asked them all to do their own self-portraits. So I got a great collection. I got about 65 of them, which I took home then and I glazed and painted. It's more about sort of educating people to what ceramics are all about, because there's always a mystery, because you just, anywhere in galleries or museums, there's something that you really aren't supposed to touch them because everything is breakable. But you know, in general, people don't want to break anything, but they just want to put their hands on them, you know. So that's what for me, that's what art is all about. It's just the experience or the engagement with the work, rather than just being sort of a passive observer of a painting or a piece of work. So these are the porcelain pieces here then, and I just cut all of these into strips. These are ones that have just been bisque fired. So I just cut them into strips and then just hand build them all the way around up on a base. And you just build it all up and just let it go, whatever way the clay kind of takes you, you know. So and then I bisque fire them and then just glaze them with a transparent glaze, and then they're ready, you know. So they're quite quick to make, and I enjoy making them. So that would be the lighter side of what I do. So just having finished now the MA, I feel that I've really had a lot of very concentrated work and a thought process over the last 2 years, you know. So now I kind of feel I just kind of want to go wild. You know, last year with the recession and everything like that, I thought, oh God, you know, everything is so gloomy and everything, and I'm just going to do something that's just fun with colour in it. So I made these domes here. Will I get it? Yeah, I can take it off. Yeah. I made a pile of these domes, and they're just a ceramic dome, and then all these flowers are put onto it, and then they're all painted, and I just think they're cheerful and they just make people smile, and for me that's what it's all about, you know. If it can just take you out of your moment that you're in, you know, and just make you smile. When I started on the MA side of things, I love Chinese vessels with all their little painted stories of village life that go around them. All their vessels tell a story, and I was going with that idea for these vessels, where I thought I'd make it quite a large vessel, and then I would have all these characters going around it that would tell a story. So I made all these with the intention of putting these all around the side of the vessel and work their way around it. But then I thought, oh no, that's not really going to work. And from there, then I thought, well, maybe I'll concentrate on the head, since I was working with the idea with the blind people, the visually impaired in mind. I thought I'll concentrate on the face, because that's how you can tell an awful lot about a person, is just by touching their face. So from this idea of doing figures that were going around a vessel, I then moved over to making the heads and looking at faces and gestures, which led to the vessels with the heads on them. I don't always know what way an idea is going to kind of pan out, and but I don't ever worry, because ideas just, if you kind of open up your mind and let your mind go, it just kind of hops from one thing to the next, you know, in a kind of an organized way that lands you with something that you're really happy with. If you keep looking and you keep working at it and keep kind of churning out ideas and experimenting along the way, it eventually leads you to where you wanted to end up, but you didn't know that that's where you were going to end up in the end. And then sort of reading and researching and that. And for me then, that gives more substance to the work that you're doing, that it's not just that I decided I was going to make a figure today. You know, there's a huge thought process that goes into it. It kind of validates the work that you do. But a lot of the time I don't know what direction I'm going, you know, but I have an idea, and then I just start and then see what happens, see where it all takes you. And if you work hard at it and you do everything, you just keep at it, you get there in the end.